DAO-tech, and open governance, and they have to do all of this in an approach that's communal, no one power, no central power, and open governance. So those are the key tenets of the approach that Hyperledger is taking. And just some quick background information about Hyperledger. The executive director is Brian Bernadoff. Is anybody familiar with that name? Where do you know him from? Excellent, yeah. Besides being a friend of his greatest accomplishment, I think, up to date, is being part of the Apache project. And one of the founders and people who brought us the Apache server, so he's definitely familiar with this space of open source, open community, and leveraging that to build something that's real, that works for business today. And anyone who's used the internet has probably come across something that is a result of that project. It's the fastest growing project in the history of the Linux Foundation. Started about, was it December 2015, so that's less than 2 years. And in that time, 120 members and growing. 120 members, and a lot of those contribute, including smaller firms like CloudSoft and larger firms like IBM. Now, like I said, the pillars are open source, open community, and open governance. No one power control. In fact, if you notice there, the board chair, Blythe Masters, is from a very small startup. So leadership roles are held by firms of all sizes, and it's not just something that JP Morgan or IBM runs. One of the 4 projects under this organization, Hyperledger, is Fabric. So Fabric is a protocol that runs blockchain applications, and it's hosted by IBM. You can also go to Docker, get some Fabric images, get it on your computer, and start playing around with it yourself as well. But IBM is definitely a premier member of the project, and one of the code bases that we helped work on is Fabric, and a little bit more about that today. So this visual is an outlay of the different type of members in the organization, very diverse. No one industry dominates. You can see from digital asset, Intel, Intuit, right? The tax guys, associate, all kinds of levels. Very collaborative community approach. Now that I've explained Hyperledger and set the tone for the environment that we're operating in, let's just talk about what makes the Fabric blockchain different from blockchains that you're familiar with. Before this presentation, actually, I got a question about, is this Bitcoin? This is not Bitcoin. This is not a cryptocurrency. This isn't run on a Bitcoin network. This isn't run on Ether. It's none of that. It's its own thing, and it's built on 4 pillars, once again, that I will go into in a couple decks here. So the first one is, shared ledger, a shared source of truth, or one shared source of truth that all parties have access to. Privacy, the biggest feature, I think the most important feature is privacy, because in a business sense, in a business network, no one does business with an anonymous party. That does not happen. There's so many regulations, millions of pages of regulations that go against that. So private business network where you control your network, trust, right? Reaching consensus and trust among the parties, and being able to encode business logic and applications into the Fabric using smart contracts. In fact, the demonstration today will go into how we can do that in a much simplified way, in a much simpler way, using only JavaScript and APIs. So shared ledger, right? Shared between parties, single source of truth. Participants have their own version. This is not an architecture conversation. I'm not going to go into it, but just understand that we all have the same access to the same information when you're in the network. Smart contracts, writing logic business processes into the application itself, using the Go language and JavaScript. And we're working on more SDKs and how to empower developers to do this right here, creating smarter smart contracts, if you will. Privacy, right? A permissioned ledger. This is I think the holy grail of what Fabric means, the most important feature. Businesses want to be able to know who's on their network, and when businesses don't know who's on their blockchain network, what happens is, are you familiar with the DAO attack? Is anyone familiar with that? Well, not to go too much. Well, you are. Last summer there was a crowdsourcing effort on the Ethereum public network, public keyword public, and what happened was they did an amazing thing. They crowdsourced and raised $150 million, right? Kind of like a venture capital fund, a not autonomous, right? Distributed autonomous organization. It was just a big smart contract code that was put out there, and somebody maliciously took advantage of that, and they took about $60 million. Right? No one knows who is the attacker. The anonymous attacker later posted a letter signed the attacker. No one knows who it was, and basically tried to blackmail their way to retaining those funds. And it led to a big fiasco, and as a consequence, there was a split between the Ethereum organization into Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. So that's the type of situation that businesses are trying to avoid, and for good reason as well. Lastly, trust. To quote our CEO, Jenny Rometty, blockchain will encode trust and efficiency in all transactions. I think that is the greatest promise, the greatest thing that blockchain can do. So enabling trust among participants and giving them the power to endorse transactions and so on and so forth. So how can IBM help? Why am I here? What's our stake in this disruptive technological revolution? What do we do? What can we do to help you? Well, we can do three things. One, we're contributing to the technology, right? Fabric, the code base that IBM submitted. We're building a distributed, like I said, protocol of a technology that's portable, that scales well, that protects the interests of businesses, and it addresses the key challenges, which I said are regulation, security, scale, efficiency, so on and so forth. Another thing we're doing is, like I said, we're hosting and supporting this. So today, you can run a Fabric instance on IBM Cloud, right? Bluemix. You can run it on a public cloud and get that scale. Or for those looking for more security, we offer what we call the High Security Business Network. What that means is for scale, and by the way, it's for security-wise, this is military-grade security. For those, like I said, hospitals and banks are interested in blockchain and worried about security, what we do is we'll give you your own Linux one server, and you run your Fabric instance on there, and you get to choose your network. And because IBM has the most data centers across the world, you truly can have a global business network that you can run. And lastly, what we do is engagements with clients. So some of the server offerings that we have is, if you as a firm you want to give an idea, a use case, how you want to apply blockchain, but we kind of are sure we're more than willing to walk you through that process and lend you our expertise and our knowledge, and sit down with you, do what we call ideation sessions, where it's a 2-hour workshop. And then for those who want to scale up and build something and run it on a cloud or an environment that they deem necessary, what we have is through our design studio, the Blockchain Garage, over, I think, was it 8 weeks? I'm not sure, don't quote me on the number. We basically build the application with you and show you our design methodology and kind of hand it off to you. It's a global team effort. We have people from Singapore or San Francisco design studio, New York as well, and it's a beautiful process. So those are three of the ways that we support the community and clients as well. Thank you.
I have one question.
I'm sorry, I should have said, can we say questions till the end? Because I'm gonna fly through the demonstration. Fabric Composer, this is a workshop. So in 20 to 30 minutes today, I'm gonna show you how you can easily create and manage your own blockchain application using this tool. Very simple. Using only JavaScript API calls. And this addresses, I'll get more into this, but when I started getting into blockchain, my background as a developer, getting started and going through the documentation applications, it was definitely a challenge. And I had the enthusiasm because I love this space, I truly do, but I'd imagine if you're a firm, you're a manager, and you're pressed with, hey, how do we make this work? You might not have as much enthusiasm to go through all that hassle to create something live, right? So you want to get to it, right? At the speed to IT, that's what we call it. And that's what this was made in mind. That's the reason why this tool was made. The community, hopefully by the end of the presentation today, you'll have two things. One is you'll know exactly where to go, how to get started, or two, right? If we're lucky, by the end of tonight, if you have an idea, you can create your own blockchain application. We ready to get started? All right. Disclaimer. So I should have said this earlier, right? Before we move forward, I just want to clear one thing up. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. There's no such thing as an IBM blockchain. Just want you guys to know it's Hyperledger. Community effort. This is not IBM taking over by no means. This is something I want to point out. A couple of people have said blockchain, IBM blockchain. I just want to know there's no such thing. And we don't want it to be an IBM thing. We want it to be something that impacts the community and works for everyone across many industries and changes lives and changes business. Give you a second to read that. That is the most important question, right? I'd imagine the architects, Dan Selman and all the other guys, when they first came up with Fabric Composer, this is the question they must have asked themselves. Why start from scratch? How many people here are in the technology room or have been in it for a while? Excellent, excellent. Hopefully you'll agree with me. The revolution in computer science and technology has been to go from creating something that's in-house, customizable, that requires a lot of attention and support from your team, to a more off-the-shelf, open-source application approach. In regards to how we build applications, instead of building everything from the bottom, you're like, let me go find a tool that's out there that does it, and then modularizing. Would you agree with this? Why should it be any different for your blockchain business network, right? Why should the rules change whatsoever for your blockchain operating system? And it shouldn't. You shouldn't have to start from ground zero. You shouldn't have to worry about the grunt work and the heavy lifting. That's our job. Please don't take my job. So today I want to, once again, just to get your expectations in order, these are the topics we'll be covering. How to create and deploy a blockchain business network, how to add assets and participants, right? How to set permissions and scale and manage those, how to create transactions, the lifeblood, right? Configuration options, right? Different environments, you want a blockchain where you develop your test, and then your test environment, your production environment, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of cool tricks out there still in place, so I want to go over that. Before we move forward, this is still something that's being built. It's far from being perfect and 100% ready for business today, but we're moving along, and we're on version 0.5, and Fabric itself is on version 1.5 alpha. For those who know and those who want to know more, basically we're ramping up to production-ready blockchain. This is something out there. I just want to bring that to your attention. Create and deploy. One of the hardest things about blockchain, like I said before, is starting with a blank canvas and wanting to know where you draw the first mark. Where do you start? Where do you go? How do you get started? All these questions come to mind, and with this tool, we make that easier. So today, what you're going to see me do is first show you how to get to the tool and the different options of how to get started. There's a text editor, and there's also a web browser. How to get to the tool and how to launch a business network. Now I'm going to use a ready-made template. Just for the sake of time, I don't want to build nothing from the bottom, but I'm going to show you that in a minute. Give me a second. This is the tool right here. So as it is today, you can develop right here on the web browser, and it stores things locally on the web browser. You also have the option of developing, connecting that to an instance of Fabric that's live. Another option is developing on Visual Studio Code. We have an extension that we created called the Fabric Composer that allows you to deal with the development, but just want to make you aware of that. And to give a quick definition of Fabric Composer, what it is, it's simply a program model and a set of tools that make it radically simpler to develop on blockchain, and using only JavaScript and APIs. Now, like I said, how to get to this? To go to any browser, I suggest either Safari or Chrome or even Firefox. But this is the URL.
Can you read it out?
Composer-playground.mybluemix .net slash, well, that should be good enough.
One more time?
I'm going too fast. Composer dash playground dash, .mybluemix.net. All information, labs, how to get started, that's coming at the end. I'll point you to that. Just want you to pay attention, have your to this presentation real quick. I'll be flying by real quick and efficiently. So that's how you get to the tool. Now, like I said, this right here is a template that comes ready to block. It's a business network, and the organization of this is there's always a README. There's something called the model file, which is where the assets and the participants are stored. The script file is where the logic, right, where you write the transaction functions in JavaScript. And this is just one example. And permissions, like I said, you'll be able to set permissions. Who can do what on the network, and to what can they apply these configuration options to. But, like I said, I'm going to start with a different template, a car auction, right? And you can do that real quick by connecting. You saw what I did. I hit the import button and I hit authenticate with GitHub. So it takes you to a GitHub account. You access that, and then there's these ready-made use cases and templates that we created. I'm going to choose a car auction. I would suggest to do this for your first time, just because you don't want to start with a blank canvas, and then you can just change things around. So we're going to start with a car auction network. Voila, we have a blockchain business network. Now let's see what's different about this. Like, that's a README, this is the model. So in this model, here's where the assets and the participants are. Now let's go through some of these assets. And before we do that, keep in mind the naming structure we have here, the file structure. So you can have multiple blockchain business networks running. You just want to be able to tell them apart. And you do that through the namespace. So this namespace points to a blockchain business network for vehicle auction. This, just to clarify, this is a computer science thing, but it's very intuitive. It's easy to understand language. Let's look at one asset real quick. So, like I said, here's your assets, vehicles, all that good stuff. I'm going to skip past this. And then here's the logic. Keep that in mind. They will be important later, because I'm going to create a car, create members later on, and trade, do a car auction and a bidding. And here's the permissions. Voila. I was able to prove in a short amount of time how to get started easily. So that's benefit number one. I think you all would agree with that. Now, let's get to the second part of the presentation real quick, how to add assets and participants. A business network is made up of two things, really. What you're trading, transacting on assets, and who can be in the network. Participants. You want to be able to create them and specify them to your needs and setting their properties accordingly. So next, what I'm going to do is a few things, and they are create an asset, specify the type, right? And it's already created for me, but I'm going to walk you through what that looks like, and then create a participant and set the type and set the appropriate variables, and show you how you can do this with your own idea as well. Going back into that model file, right? Let's go through some of the assets. Asset uno is a vehicle. So just based on the syntax of the language, you state the asset type, the name, and you say what it's identified by, a VIN number. Now this is written in natural, easy language. It's not written in any fancy JavaScript and any language that's not hard to understand. Really, this part is no coding at all. Anybody in a business line could get started on this. The second asset is the listing state, right? You get this, we want to be able to state, is a car for sale? Has reserve not met? Is it sold? Vehicle listing, right? How to be able to create a vehicle listing out there. participants. So abstracted that out, and then we created two participant types. They are member, and it extends this user type. The language is very easy to pick up. This is, I think, is the complex that you'll see around there. And you have your auctioneer, right? You have your three members all bidding on the car, and you have your auctioneer controlling it. Then you have, and in here you state the transaction type. So we have two transaction types that are going to happen. One, we're going to allow several members in our network to make an offer. Two, we'll be able to close bidding, which means look at the offers that are out there and pick the highest one. That's who gets the car. Now, where does that get, how does that happen? That's in this JavaScript file. That's in the script file where you write the logic, right? And close bidding, that I just talked about that function. I won't go too much into it, but it's out there for you to dissect on your own. Also make it an offer, two functions. And next, okay, so now I'm gonna quickly go to this section. So in one half of the tool, you get to set all the parameters, create the things, set up the environment, and in the second, you actually get to create and do stuff. And it's called the test section where you can go test. Now we'll go to these are different asset registries. These are where, like for the participants, this is where the auctioneers all go. So when you go create them, right here. And by the way, notice how easy it is to operate. Not too much code, just a lot of buttons, clicking things. Anybody could do this. So I want to go to the members. I want to create a new participant. And it shows up with this JSON format. Simply, you just fill out the information. So I'm going to create a person. This is the guy who's selling his car. He's selling his car, so he doesn't have too much money. He has $100 in his bank. We've all been there. He's we want to specify how we can identify this person. Let's see, we're going to use his email. I'm going to give him charlie@food.com. And give him a name. Voila. Now let's do this 2 more times. This person has 10,000. Pay attention to the balances. It'll be important in a minute. I'm going to call this person. Give them an email. Alice Smith. And then the final third person. Get them money. Specify. And the idea behind specifying the names is for lookup purposes. You want to keep track of the network, so I'm going to give him the name Bob. Bob. Great. Now, we need a car to make this work, right? So let's just go to the asset part section. Create a car. I'm going to give it a easy identifier. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to set the owner as Charlie. Remember, Charlie had the $100 balance. He's the one selling his car. I want to make sure that he gets paid for this car. Charlie's car. Now, Charlie wants to list this car in auction, so we created a vehicle listing. Ignore this right here. This is in this case, right, if you look at the JSON, it's assuming that there's multiple offers, and as of now, there's not. I want to make sure that I point to the right VIN number for the vehicle. And a lot of these values, if you're wondering, go back to the define section, go to the model file, go right to the vehicle listing. It'll tell you exactly where to look. See the namespace? And you get to see where these values correlate to, why they're there. After a while, it becomes super intuitive. So, zero price, description, ABC, doesn't matter. State, it's for sale. Offers is no offers. And listing ID, let's make it listing 1. This is the first car listing out there. we've created the participants, the 3 people who are, one is selling the car, the 2 are trying to buy it. We've created the car, and we've associated with the vehicle. Huh?
No, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, yeah, we created the vehicle, and then we created a vehicle listing and made sure that the vehicle is associated with the owner and that the vehicle listing is associated with the vehicle. Now, the benefit of that is you get to control who and what joins your network. A lot of control.
Right.
We're going to move on to the next piece, and that is setting permissions. Permissions are important because you don't want any malicious behavior on your network. You don't want nobody deleting, adding, updating things that they shouldn't. Right? We trust our employees, but we also want to put the safeguards in there. And sometimes you have to, based on the regulations in your industry, in your business, and the processes that you have. And then again, we also want to protect against accidents. Accidents do happen. You don't want to accidentally delete something that you shouldn't have. You don't want to accidentally update something you shouldn't have. And you don't want to accidentally make mistakes. I mean, one example of why that's important in the financial industry, there's $1.4 billion a year spent on correcting mistakes and verifying information. What if you made a system or application that was quote-unquote foolproof? What would that mean to your business? So next, what you're going to see me do is walk through a set of permissions that's already created and explain the value that each has. So I'll go back to the define area, and I'll go to the access control. So as you can imagine, each asset and each participant has a set of rules for set of permissions associated with it, where you can set and you can configure. And the key thing to watch out for is, let's just go through one example. For example, in the rule auctioneer, you get to set the description and put comments in there so that the next person who looks at these sets of permissions understands what's going on. Leave a little message there. Participant, you get to set. You get to define what the participant is back in the model file in case somebody wants to go look back. Operation, what operations is it able to do? For this example, we've set it as all. We want the auctioneer to be able to do all the different operations available to it. And the resource, which is basically the namespace. In case you have different namespaces, you want to specify which one you're talking about. And the actions is allow it to take action. You could set it in something else so that it can't take action. Maybe you want someone in your participant within your network who is just there, can't do anything. Kind of like a read permission, can't write. And this goes on and on and on. So once again, for another participant, and you get to name it, you get to specify the participant, and so on and so forth. It's kind of the same. It's a bit different with how assets and participants, the rules apply to them, but very intuitive English, very easy to understand. The key benefit of that is you control what actions are taken on your network. I've said that before, but keep in mind, you get this, the issue of scale still exists. You want to be able to find a way to manage controls for all these participants. Your whole network as it scales. You can't do this one by one, but by being able to say all participant types who are auctioneers, these are the rules applied to you. You don't have to manage them separately. This is very handy. The more your business grows, this is something that you definitely want to be able to control. Moving forward, creating transactions. Probably the most important thing that anybody wants to do on their business network. The lifeblood, get things moving, get the trade going, make the real business happen. And what I'll do next is go through, show you the logic of the transactions and actually place an offer, place 2 offers, and close out the bidding. Pick one of those 2 offers. Going to the test section. So like I said, I've created my participants, created my assets, and now I go to the submit transaction. Simple as that. Now, the transaction types. There's two types. There's the offer, the closed bidding. Once again, going back to the define section, we've already stated what those are in the script. In the script area, I'm going to go with the offer. And I'm going to say, for the listing one, specify what we're talking about, and say this offer is made by Alice. She's the one with a lot of money. I'm going to say she's going to make a bid of 10,000. Notice the difference between when I made a transaction and when I made an asset. An asset, what could you do? You could delete or update those. You can't do that with a transaction. That's the key tenet of a blockchain, immutability. So let's place another transaction, same type, same listing. I'm going to say it's for 6,000, and it's by Bob this time, the other guy with the money. Same thing. So the offers are there. Let's pick the highest bidder. Let's do that. Close bidding. Now with this, all I have to specify is the listing. It looks at the listing, it looks at the offers, and says who's got the most money. We submitted our transactions, and now what's happening in the background is the car's been sold. It has a new owner. Let's go check it out. So, who's the new owner now? Who was it before? Okay, now let's go to the members. Let's look at their money. Alice spent all of her money. She had 10,000. I gave it away. Actually, she made an offer. Bob, 6,000. Why didn't his change? Because he didn't win the bid, so he doesn't lose any money. And look at Charlie. When he started today, he had $100, and now he's a rich man. He got 10,000. He can pay student bills, all that. We went through one example of a transaction, and gotcha. So, switching gears here.
Question for you. What does it mean for the user actually? So is this backend or users participate in the blockchain themselves?
Come again.
So what does it mean for user interface, for example?
Oh, the user interface?
Yeah.
So I'd imagine it's all the participants within the network have access to it, and that's one of the things they're still building out the UIs for with the user. But yeah, if you're on the same blockchain business network and applying it, and the rules are set, multiple users can apply. Does that answer your question? Because we're still working on what does this look like in a real world application with a bunch of people using it, right? A desktop app or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, we're still working out the kinks, but I don't want to make any promises before the guys who are building this, the guys and gals, excuse me, who are building all of it get there. But you have access to the tool. Everyone on your team has access to the tool. You're using the same namespace, right? You're on the same network, and if you point to the same instance on Fabric, now you guys are transacting on the same Fabric. Why would that be any different if you were sending chain code or smart contracts to a Fabric instance running anywhere else?
I have one question. Before you move on. This one you did it in one single thing, but if I want to do it with multiple people, is there any common namespace or anything they can get into it, and then we can do a kind of real time?
I believe that was a question she was asking, right? How do you collaborate with multiple people?
Yeah.
Like I said, they're still working out the kinks of this application. I don't want to make any promises before, but that's one thing I can follow up with as well. What does this look like on a collaborative front?
Okay.
You happy with that answer?
Yes. Can you see those transactions on the blockchain?
Yes.
Yourself?
Yes, you can.
Can you open up the IBM Hyperledger and see it?
Yes. That's what I meant, and you're working on the same transaction. What I did yesterday, I kind of did my own legwork. I created an instance on the tool, and I connected it to a running instance on the IBM cloud. right? And I saw the blocks, I saw them, I counted them, and I would send transactions and it would tell me, and then I used another tool, which was a tool that comes with this called Loopback. It's an API tool where I made the calls from an API. So using this tool, multiple people can interact on the same blockchain. But it's not like a Microsoft, like a, what is it, I'm trying to say. The UI as of now isn't like a Google, you know how Google Docs, but you're both pointing to the same namespace, you're pointing to the same fabric. Let's do some transactions. I'm gonna get back to you on that one, but I don't see no reason why I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's just the question I was asking, like, does everybody, so if it's me and Joe, like, do we need to go through that process, me and Joe goes through the same process?
Oh, creating it?
Yeah, maybe not everybody is so savvy to create, you know, the same sequence of events that you just created.
Oh yeah, instead of starting from the bottom for everybody,
Yeah.
if I launch it and I connect it to a running instance of blockchain, when you launch it to the tool, do you have to recreate the members and the participants and assets? Is that what you're asking?
I'll just talk to you after.
All right, no worries. Benefit of that right there is being able to start making transactions easily. So now, configuration options. I'm gonna show you, there's a lot of features, I kind of delved into that right now, that are in this tool and also work in conjunction with the tool. And they are how to manage the API calls. You can do a lot of what I just stated through API calls. And you can specify different environments. So I'm gonna show you some options. And they're still in the works. Like I said, this is still not production ready yet. It's getting close, but how to switch environments, I'm gonna go over those as well.
I have one question. So the example what you came up with the JavaScript UI, and you also suggested you can go through some API, like with Fabric instance running on your application in the cloud.
Yeah.
So I can use different interfaces by which I can create a
Yeah.
website.
So I tested out. I used this tool to make add a vehicle, add a participant using this, and I saw it on the blockchain instance. If you create a block, it would do all those transactions, and then I also open up another tab, launch something called a REST server, and using that API, I just made the same call. So I created an asset through another interface. I was able to query, pull back information, do all those tools. But I'm going to get into that. Give me a second.
Sorry, one more question. So the Fabric also, the Hyperledger has the Fabric Explorer. So would that work on the same thing? Like, would I be able to view the transaction using that tool?
I'm not too familiar with Fabric Explorer. You're referring to one of the other projects in the
Correct.
Hyperledger. I'm not too familiar with that. I have to get back to you on that. So on any page, if you notice in the right-hand corner, there's this, and it's called connection profiles. So as of today, right now, this is running on the web browser. Everything I've done is locally stored. But if you want to be able to, like I said, specify a specific Fabric instance that you want to point this tool to, right? You can do that. So you can do one locally called a test, and you can also use this to point to something on Bluemix. Run whatever cloud you choose, environment, you can choose to do that. You can set up multiple environments. You can set up one that, like I said, is your test environment, and you put the stuff out there and you transact and create the network and so on and so forth. And then you can migrate. You can also have a production environment. You can do that as well. So that's one configuration option. Another one is, like I said, you can develop on the web interface, or you can develop on Visual Studio. We have an extension for that, for those who want more comfortable developing in that sense. And when you compile your business network and you get the file ready, it's a .bna file. We will have a follow-up, hopefully a follow-up event where we can go more deep into the more technical stuff. But you create the file basically, and then that's what you import. You're importing your business network, the logic, the structure, all of it that fits into this format. And when you do, you said, like I said, you can click import, replace. You can upload it, and the next what you would have is another business network here. Vice versa, you can export this. I could export it now. carauction.network BNA was exported, and I can open it on the Visual Studio's code. Thanks to that extension, it will be able to read the file structure the way I want it to. so on and so forth. Another tool that comes with it, and the tools and the environment's growing. Like I said, is the loopback editor. So I can go in the command line, launch the server, go to the web browser, localhost 3000, right? And then when I go on there, I can now, instead of doing it here, I can make the same calls on the web browser. I can create an asset, create a participant. I can query, get that information back, which you have to look through it on here. But if you wanna, if your network grows and you have a lot of assets, you want a quick way to say, look, this is the ID. I want to pull it back. So there's a lot of configuration options and tools available. Can we save questions till the end? There'll be a Q&A session. No, I'm glad that you have questions though. That's great. Easily configure your network, right? Give you versatility, a set of tools that allow you to branch out and do unique creative things. So that's to summarize the benefits. Easy to get started, control over who's in your network, what's in your network, control on what actions can be taken upon the assets on your network, and what actions can be taken by the participants of that network, how to start, and scale those permissions, by the way, and also how to start making transactions easy, and to configure your network so that you have the versatility and the configuration options to do just about anything that you like. So you've had me, an IBMer, a member of the community, Hyperledger, blockchain enthusiast. I've been here for I don't know how long, standing on my shoes, and I've been preaching the good word and telling you about why you should be interested in Hyperledger, why this approach makes sense, why this, so on and so forth. But I think a more important point of view is that of our clients and people actually using this. They can speak to the benefits of this approach a lot better than I could. And I think their word matters a lot more than I do, mine or anyone else at IBM at the end of the day. And a great example of that is we have two clients here, and they are Maersk, large supply chain.
Danish.
Excuse me?
I just said from the Danish.
Yeah, the Danish, exactly. Yep, he knows it. Big players. And then we have Invictus, a smaller fintech in Singapore. We've worked with both of these clients, and we actually have a deal, I don't know if it's announced, to help build out a digital supply chain solution with Maersk by the end of the year, helping them save a lot of money and also not lose a lot of valuable goods. And then we're also helping Invictus come up with an order, logistics, and payment platform. That's not what's important. That's what I want you to take away from that, is that these are different sized businesses, really big. They have different needs. But using our approach and the community that we're a part of, we're able to serve them. This isn't a blockchain for large corporations. This is a blockchain for anybody that's interested in doing business. I got a little artsy in this slide, but I don't know if you can tell that's supposed to mean IoT. And this brain is not Brainiac, it's AI. Kind of, want to get you a sense of what's next, what's the future of this space. As it is today, we do have applications out there for blockchain and IoT, right? Our Watson IoT platform and how they can interact. We're looking at that, and I know there was an announcement made last month at one of our events in Vegas, where an executive at IBM said there's plans to incorporate Watson with blockchain. And that's, to me, I'm excited about that. I've played with Watson APIs, I've played with AI. I'm a big fan of all the good stuff, deep learning, neural networks. And to see the convergence of these technologies is amazing, not just for technology's sake, but for the world's sake. I truly believe the intersection of IoT, blockchain, and AI is where human needs are going to be solved. A lot of problems are going to be solved, and all of this brought to you by the cloud, broad tech, which is accessible, as you know, by everyone else, right? Democratizing computational power. That's what the cloud's all about, making sure that businesses and people of all sizes have access to these amazing capabilities. And I'm gonna leave you with a quick story about that, why this is so important. Imagine the human body, right? We all got one. You have tons of sensors all over your body, and they send information. They don't know, it might not be useful, but they're constantly taking in information and sending it. And then it has to travel up a safe path, a network, if you will, up your body, and it reaches your brain, which then takes this information, turns it into actionable, real insight at near real time, and sends back commands. That to me is a prime example of the potential we got going on here, right? IoT gathering the data, blockchain securing it, right? Immutability, making sure we know where it's coming from, who, provenance really, and then the AI making that into something actionable, something that means something at the speed of business and life. Next steps. So we've been working up to this. Now what? I've given you information, I've armed you with some tools, some insight. What do you do? Right, if you're looking to learn more, get out to GitHub. There's Fabric documentation on our version 1. There's information on this tool, there's labs. Follow up with me. I'm going to post my information up slide after this, but follow up with me as far as if you're looking to get started, information, anything like that. If you're ready to build, if you're want to have serious conversations about how we could sit down, get these ideas going, get some use cases going, figure out how this directly applies to your business today. Let's work on that. What I encourage everyone here to do, if you're part of a startup, and like I said, community building, is to join our startup ecosystem. Mike over there, CloudSide, his firm's actually part of our startup ecosystem. It's a collaborative bunch of people. We're trying to get them together, and really through the power of working together and being a team, being around each other, kind of what Solomon was pointing at earlier in the meeting. Some crazy things might happen, some amazing things might happen, a lot of collaboration. To add to that, we have something called the Global Entrepreneurs Program. We do understand that for some entrepreneurs, funding and getting the resources to do all these amazing things might be a little bit outside of your grasp for now. So we've created this program so that those who qualify can get up to $120,000 in cloud credits. Let that sink in there. That's $120,000. That's a mortgage. You can flip that out and do a lot of stuff. But that's a resource we have available out there because we want as many firms of different sizes to have access to this community, access to our resources, and have the opportunity to build out their blockchain dreams. So here's my contact info if you care for that. Email me. I'm really responsive. I actually had the cleanest email. Honestly, I kid you not, I can see emails from 10 when I started the company. Like if I scroll down, I'm super organized, so I will definitely get your email. There's my LinkedIn. Love it. Love LinkedIn. Very responsive. There's my information. Let's stay in touch. Hopefully this is not the last time you'll see me. We'll be doing a lot more work, me and Solomon over there, Sean. And thank you again for being here. This was an amazing opportunity. This is actually my first presentation. Hopefully I didn't do too bad, but I look forward to seeing a lot more faces, answering a lot more emails and calls, and helping some people even in this room build out their dreams. So thank you.